Cool. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Julien. I'm going to do this in English because I'm talking about my work. And yeah, Theo is really happy about this. I'm talking about my work, which has been in London for the last 7 years. So unfortunately, I've forgotten how to speak about work in German. You wouldn't enjoy it. I wouldn't enjoy it. So we're doing it in English. If it's too fast, watch the recording or come and talk to me afterwards. Right, so I work for a company called Oleo. We make hiring software, which is effectively an applicant tracking system. Same thing as when you apply for a job at Deutsche Bahn, for example. You go through like some kind of hiring process. We make that kind of software. So I often speak about hiring topics on training topics, but that's because that's what I do, not because of the software we make. It's just a coincidence that we actually make software in the same space. So this talk is going to be about not actually training, but about finding people for trainings. But I always like to start by asking the audience, so who of you has trainees at work, at Auszubildende? Actively training, okay? There's like a couple, 5, 6, 7, and then there's a few who are actually Auszubildende in the room, I think 1 or 2. 2, okay. Anyone who started by doing an internship or work experience before doing the actual job? There's 1, 2, okay, that's cool. Right, so today we're talking about work experiences. Last year, I gave a similar talk, which was to kind of talk about the differences between work experiences and internships and why you should do it. So I'll give you a quick recap and then we'll talk about what else is going to happen. Pretty much, I want to focus on work experience, which is usually a couple of weeks and unpaid, whereas an internship is often through university. It takes a bit longer and you have to pay them. In my use case, we don't want to pay them, so we're going to do the short ones. Those 2 weeks are usually beneficial for both sides, so mutually beneficial. And I've jumped into the recap before giving you the overview, sorry. Right, so that's what I'm going to do. You've seen that. Let's do the recap. I just said work experience is short and unpaid. You just show up and you do stuff. But it is mutually beneficial. So benefits for the company are you can get potential hires. As some of you may have seen yourself, you did your work experience or your internship and then you got a job and now you have a job and now you're here, which is great. But also if you don't just get the job, you get career experience, you get to explore different types of jobs. So maybe you decide this is actually not super interesting, I don't want to do it. Or maybe you say this is great, but not here. Or this is great, I'd love to do it here, but they can't have me, so I'll go somewhere else. But there are a few things you have to consider. As a company, obviously, you have to prepare for this quite a lot. As a person who does the work experience, you don't really have to prepare very much, which is great. But as a company, you should actually, set stuff up, otherwise it goes wrong. And we're going to talk about that today. And you also always should set clear expectations and then give feedback at the end, because otherwise it's not going to be super great. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Making those 2 weeks mutually beneficial. How do you actually do that? So first of all, let's say, why would you even offer this? Right? So obviously, you can validate people and you can assess people. That could become Auszubildende, I call them trainee developers, might be junior developers, whatever you want to call them. There's quite a big job market in some countries. So in the UK, we really struggle with how many applicants there are. Whereas in Germany, I think in the IT sector, they're struggling with finding people. In the UK, it's the complete opposite. If I open a role for trainee, which would be for someone straight out of university, within a week, without advertising, I'll have 100, 200 applicants, and then there's a lot of CVs to read. So I'm trying to find ways that make me not have to read all of these CVs. So that might be a good way. If I can find someone to do a work experience through some other channel, then I can see, are they any good? If they're great, I could just hire them. And then I have to do all of this going to market. So that's one way, obviously, why this is good. You can assess them really well. So you see a real-world application of their technical aptitude, of their diligence, of their communication skills. Those are all keywords that I've used in previous talks from a few years ago. You can find them if you search for me on YouTube about different, I'm just walking away, to rein damit, Schnauze halten.
That's German.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you translate that? It sounded naughty.
Oops. Right, sorry for the interruption. We'll carry on. So those are all keywords that come from my my hiring and progression framework. If you're interested in that, come talk to me. I'll find you the right talk. The best thing, I think, is when you have someone in a work experience that you can observe fit in the team culture, which is pretty useful. And I think that we don't really need to explain that. You can see someone actually doing the work. Are they going to fit in or not? As a company, you have a few actual benefits from that, not just for the hiring, but actual benefits. You get this realistic preview, as I just said, because you see them work and you see their actual work product, and you see, which for an entry-level role is really important, you see how well they learn and how well they respond to your type of training. So a lot of my job is helping people learn. I don't really write code anymore. I just help other people learn how to write code. So I get to do that for like a full 2 weeks with someone. It's really, really useful. They're going to make valuable contributions. Maybe not loads, but some. You know, they write documentation maybe. They write a little bit of code. Sure, I have to prepare lots of stuff for them to write productive code. But it is super important for me to make them actually do something productive so they can come away and say, this was cool. I've done something useful. You can refine your onboarding processes. This is often overlooked. A lot of tech companies, smaller ones, often the Pearl companies are the smaller ones. We're not very good at hiring. It's like even us making hiring software, we're not brilliant at this stuff because we don't do it ourselves very often. We just give other people the tools to do it really well. There's a thing about dog fooding here. Yeah, so if you actually get to try this out, you know, tell IT to prepare a laptop, ship a laptop, get the laptop back. If that all works, that's brilliant. If it doesn't work, well, it didn't happen at a time where it could have been much more embarrassing. So that's nice. And of course, if you find someone, then you actually end up not having to spend loads of money on going to market. So if I have to read 200 applications and then half of them have been written by AI, we end up with me giving a talk about that like last year. We don't want that. No one wants that again. Yeah, so you spend a lot less time just because reading applications is really expensive. So my time is expensive. That's not time I'm using to do something productive, even if obviously there is a return from the investment, but not as much. Yeah. So as the participant, obviously you get this hands-on experience in a super professional setting. Like the chance to do maybe while you're still in university or before you start an apprenticeship in Germany, maybe more likely, is you get to see what working in a company is like. I mean, not everyone gets to do that. That's pretty cool. You see real-world code bases and workflows, which I think is a super big one because, like, teaching yourself how to code is one thing. Writing code is great. You make like your own little Twitter clone. You make a guest book. You make a notes app, whatever. It's like that's not useful. You learn how to, you know, write some keywords into an empty file, but that's not really. It's not software development. It's maybe programming, but it's not something that actually tells you what your job is going to be. And I find telling people what the job is going to be gives them a real sense of, do I want to do this? And they get guidance and mentorship, obviously. So all really nice things, but you have to set expectations. So define clear goals and tasks for the 2 weeks, and then communicate why they're doing this, what you gain from that. And encourage open communication. So always say things like, if you have questions, come and ask me. If something is unclear, come and ask me. If you don't like this task, if you don't understand it, tell me. You know, we don't want you to sit there and feel completely lost. We want you to learn something. If you don't know how to do this, that's fine. I'll help you. And, you know, we might end up seeing that I made a mistake when I wrote your ticket, and then we'll fix it together. And that happens. So how do I actually prepare this? First, we're setting the tone. So you want a learning journey. Someone who comes in for 2 weeks, they're there to gain something. They're not there to bang out stuff for you to get like free labor. That's not going to happen. It's going to cost you a lot of money to do this work experience. So do it properly and prioritize what they're going to learn. Maybe even discuss that with them. What do they want to gain from it? structure this so that it's a supportive and educational experience, a bit like what Zern talked about yesterday. And then provide realistic introduction to all of this professional development. So you're going to show them your tools, you're going to show them your workflows. I'll have a slide about that, but we'll see that. And then set up tasks that have a purpose. So those tasks, they should facilitate really specific outcomes, such as understanding existing code, debugging, clearly communicating. So you have some bug fixes where they can read code. Like, you don't really get to read large blocks of code or large multi-file things when you're teaching yourself how to code. And a lot of the people that I interview that come and want to work with us, they've done a degree in a STEM subject where they've maybe written some code, maybe a bit of Python, maybe a bit of this, a bit of that. But most of the people will have done online classes or a boot camp or lots of personal projects. And they're always greenfield, and then none of them know how to write code, how to read code. And so this is incredibly useful for someone to experience. Just seeing a code base that's like a couple of 100,000 lines of code is not something you get to experience otherwise. Like, you go on GitHub and look at stuff, but you're never going to understand it anyway. So most people will not even know to attempt to try that. Like, they just won't. Yeah, we have writing documentation, which is great for communication skills, for different registers, for different how do I write for different audiences. Same thing with sticking stuff in tickets. How am I clear? How do I communicate stuff without other people getting bored, other people not understanding? And then you might add even simple features like which gives you applying different coding principles. I mean, when you really start out, you want to know, how do I write for loops? How do I do structure? Stuff like that. And problem solving is the really big one, obviously. So for all of this, you want to prep lots of detail. You create really well-structured tickets with lots and lots and lots of detail, which is quite a lot of work, but often you end up with information that otherwise you've been telling your people that you've been training anyway, but never really wrote it down. So then you have kind of like a little wiki in those, which is quite nice. I think my project manager kept a lot of the last round of tickets I did for showcasing how the stuff work, which is quite cool. Yeah, and obviously, as I just said, for communication, documentation tasks are brilliant to teach how do I communicate. If you write a bug ticket, that's brilliant. Like, if you've never really written code, or if you've only written code for yourself, you might not know that you can raise issues in GitHub. An issue tracker might not be a thing you would use yourself. Even if you've done a boot camp that you paid like 15,000 euros for to do for 3 months, they will tell you what a pull request is, but they'll probably not use tickets first. And like, people just don't know how to use this. If you've seen that exists, it sets you apart from other applicants so much. So this is brilliant. So whenever I have someone find the bug, I write the bug ticket, and then maybe fix it, maybe not. But if they've written a bug ticket that some other more experienced person can fix, that is pretty cool for them. It's a great experience. And of course, you include them in your dailies. In our case, that's only stand-ups. We don't do any other ceremony. But if you have obviously like retrospectives or something, you'd put them there. And then we have development that you introduce them to, professional tooling, as I said. Expose them to all of your workflows and tools. That could be your version control, which is most likely going to be Git. So you see, how do I collaborate with different people? What kind of collaboration has happened in the past? How do I read history? How do I produce stuff that is consistent with history? So always the first thing I tell everyone is, before you make your first commit, read through the last 20 commit messages, look at the writing style, look at how is stuff spelled, how is stuff written, what is the sort of intent behind the commit messages, and then write something similar. Don't write like a novel. Don't write, I'm making a change. My hands are typing words. No, instead, you match what's there. Right, then you can also, and I like this a lot, introduce them to various different roles in the company, such as the different job types in your tech team. So whenever I have someone who's doing this, I set up half-an-hour calls with someone in each different sort of job type in the tech team. So you get like developer, front-end, back-end developer, maybe a DevOps, maybe a sysadmin, maybe the UX designer, maybe the accessibility expert, maybe the product manager, maybe a product manager, maybe it's the CTO, maybe it's someone who uses our product. So as I said, we make a SaaS software. So there's also people who are very technical, but all they do is click stuff in our product every day. And that's super interesting as well because they're experts in our product. All of that's really cool. And I've had feedback that just having this opportunity to talk to lots of different people has just opened up so much more understanding of how companies work, how working at work works. And that's something that maybe your employee's friend's son who's doing this with you is getting out of this, which otherwise is just so much gatekept. They wouldn't be able to get this. Right, so you want to guide growth. So you also mentor them in order to get them to learn and develop effectively. So mentorship, I'm not going to go into this. I've given several talks about this. Again, you can find them. It's going to be a link to my website that has all of the different talks I've given. And finally, you give constructive feedback and provide guidance and ongoing support. So again, same thing. You tell them you're there to help. You encourage them to ask questions. You make sure that if you're doing, for example, pair programming with screen sharing, you're not there to watch that they work. You're there to provide help in case they need it, and otherwise you have a nice chat. And you get to tell little anecdotes and explain things and point out missing semicolons and stuff like that. Good. Okay, the last topic I want to talk about is work experience as hiring tools. So as I said, this is really good for that because it helps you making informed hiring decisions. So it really gives you a realistic and in-depth view. Like no interview process can ever do that. But of course, it comes with the cost of being super intense. Preparation, 2 weeks of holding someone's hand is quite a lot of work. Even if they're not in the office and you're doing it from home, it's quite a lot of work. So you do this once, and then hopefully you found someone. You can assess all of their different words that I've written here in a realistic cultural company setting that is practical and that works. And if they don't fit, but they're great, otherwise, like they're really good, but they're not going to fit, then you can at least give them that feedback. You say, look, I'll write you a reference. I'll be your reference. I'll help you find something where you're going to be happy. I think we're not that, but I think if you go that way instead, this is going to be it. And they will be thankful for that. And equally, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then you know, and that's great. And ultimately, that obviously leads to the risk of leads to reducing the risk of mishiring someone. Like the worst thing that can happen is you invest quite a lot into a long hiring process, and then you end up with someone who doesn't want to do the job, but now they've seen the job. So that's great. So ultimately, that all leads to investing into the future, which I think when we talked about sustainability, we have that. So provide a valuable benefit to your existing employees as well, because if this is, let's say, someone who works with us in a different department, their friend's son wants to go into tech, is in university, doesn't know where to go, like that person is going to want to stay working with you because you take them seriously as an employee and it helps them grow their network and invest in their network. As I said, hiring processes are streamlined because you can have referred candidates and therefore you save time. And it increases, of course, the likelihood of that ultimate successful hire. And I keep going back to this friend's son. So let me talk about impact really quickly. Last week, there was the Pearl Toolchain Summit in Leipzig. And when I was invited, I asked, can I bring someone? So they said yes, luckily. So I brought Jordan. This is Jordan. 2 years ago, he did this work experience with me. He's the son of a friend of someone who works in a customer-facing role with us, customer success management. He was still in uni doing a 4-year master class, like master degree. And he did this full interview process with us to get the work experience. He did fantastic work in these 2 weeks. It's brilliant, but he'd still a year to go, so I couldn't hire him. So I had to, not hire him and wait. And when I then opened up another role, which happened last year when I was at the Pearl workshop. So the rant I did about AI last year was pretty much I had two jobs that I could fill, 2 roles for the same job. Jordan got one of them because we messaged him and we said, look, we have that role now. You're done with your unique. Please come and work for us. So I took him to the Pearl Toolchain Summit, and this is him doing front-end work on MetaCPAN. And those tickets he's done, they're live now, and he's now involved. I think he volunteered to, where's Ferki? Where are you there? He volunteered to build your front end for your issue tracker, didn't he?
Yes, I believe
he accidentally volunteered.
More on the tip of that side.
Yeah, he accidentally volunteered to do that.
Actively, or was he?
No. He was like, he's super keen. So he had a brilliant time. Again, everyone was so friendly and open. And I think going from, I'm trying out what work is like, to within your first year of the job, ending up at this with people who have more work experience and professional open source experience than he has been alive. It's just brilliant. So this shit works. Do this. Thank you. We have time for questions.
Yeah, try.
Can we do a few questions? Does anyone?
There's one thing we actually now would have a coffee break.
Yeah.
And cake was ordered, but did not arrive. I'm sorry for that. It was yesterday. It might arrive later. I can't
Might
tell you
arrive.
now.
It already did arrive.
We inhaled
No,
it.
the second round of cake.
Oh, respawn. Cake respawn. Okay, are there any
The
questions?
elastic cake has arrived.
Are there any questions? Apparently not. No questions. That's good. Oh yeah, there is a question.
What do you think is the big difference between Great Britain and Germany by way of demand and supply of potential workers?
Okay, the difference in demand and supply for potential. You said potential workers. I'm going to see if I can rephrase that. So you think people who come into the IT world, like new people. I think Dave has a talk about this, a lightning talk about this.
I've got a talk about university graduates, as I've met some recently.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I can answer this. I think Germany's been struggling with finding people to do jobs in general because our job market is quite strong. The German job market seems quite strong. Last week, I went to a small town called Pirna outside of Dresden, and up on the castle in the little restaurant, they had a poster looking for an Auszubildender, for trainee for waiting staff, basically, like hotel, restaurant work, Restaurantfachmann, Restaurantfachfrau. They had put a €1,000 bounty. If you complete the first year of the 3-year apprenticeship, will give you a €1,000 bonus because they can't find people to do the apprenticeship. And I think this is not just the tech industry. In Germany, that's everything. People either want to go to university and then don't do apprenticeships, or people maybe just don't want to do work. I don't know. I mean, Zan said that care work was quite high in what people want to do.
But that's bone crushing work. It's really hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not the easy part.
The thing is, like, in the UK, there are a lot of graduates. Like, there is no apprenticeship system in the UK comparable to the dual system in Germany. It doesn't exist. There are apprenticeships, but they're weird, and they also give you degrees, and they're sort of not the same thing. So everyone goes to university, and university isn't for people who are the brightest. University is for the people who either can afford to do it, or who do it anyway, and then they'll probably pay their university loan, student loan back for the next 40 years until it expires and it defaults, and then they don't have to pay it back. And then you have an incredibly high overload of people in the job market. They all want jobs. As I said, like, this is not a made-up number. 1 week of no advertising, just LinkedIn and Indeed scraping my jobs, my one job, and I get 200, 300 applications. Like, I know of other companies, they get like 1,000, 2,000 applicants for a single junior role within a few weeks if they're bigger companies.
Whoa.
How do you even look through these? Like, there's no realistic process. So what I do now is
Random.
random would probably, I mean, yeah, maybe. As a tester, you would say that, wouldn't you? No, I ask a simple question. Again, this was my lightning talk last year. My simple question is, why do you want to be a developer? If it starts with, I think I would be a really good fit for this junior developer role at Olio because of my various experience, blah, blah, blah. In conclusion, I just reject them because clearly they don't know how to write anything themselves. And then I delete all the ones that don't have a GitHub account because how am I going to compare them with the others? Which sucks. I hate doing that. I don't want to do that because not everyone has time for open source. And we shouldn't make that a requirement to getting a job. Like, that's wrong. We can't like we can't turn that into a requirement. It's not a thing. It's not everyone has the free time. So people have families, people have other commitments. It's not fair, but there's no other way of doing it because otherwise it becomes an incredible time sink. But I think it's because the UK pushes for degrees. So you get people, working on the bin truck, die Müllabfuhr. Those people have bachelor degrees because there is no other path. Everyone does a degree.
Yeah.
Like, it's important work, it's a bit rubbish, but it's important work. But yeah, they end up with degrees because everyone has a degree, but equally there's no apprenticeship for working in a restaurant. So you do not have like hospitality staff that actually knows how to set a 5-course meal in a restaurant. They don't know which side to serve plates from, which side to take them out from. That doesn't exist in the UK. Everyone who works in hospitality, unless it's like high-end silver service, it's just like people who haven't graduated yet because they somehow need to pay for those horrendous university fees. So all of the universities are basically money printing machines for the universities and all of the attached industry.
There are indeed university tracks for hospitality services.
Yeah, but why do that when you can do business studies? Sorry, I interject.
Oh, no, business. I don't need this. Business studies. Business studies. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I can't really tell you why this is the case. What I can tell you, and maybe we cut this out of the recording, is that obviously recent political decisions in the UK haven't really helped for those people coming here to fill all of the vacancies because they can't anymore. Because Dave now needs a stamp when he comes here. And soon he'll need to pay to come in. And if you come to the next London Pearl Workshop, which we'll hopefully have, you'll have to buy a visa first. Sorry about that. Yeah.
They swear it's not a visa.
You need a passport and a visa, yeah.
No, it's not really a visa. No, it's not a visa.
It's
An ETA.
Have to
Yeah.
use it for
Anyway.
2 weeks.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Did that answer the question somewhat? Address the question somewhat?
It addressed it. There was certainly some insight, but
I don't have the answer to how to improve it.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Since there is no cake, we can keep talking. And we need better hospitality staff to produce cake. I think that's it. They need a degree in baking, cake making.